Hello, welcome to the Sounding Board, a weekly program produced and directed by the members of Optimist International of Novato. I'm Sylvia Berry, and I will be your host today. Optimist International of Novato is a local association of business and professional women whose primary mission is to improve the lives of women and girls, both locally and globally. And the Sounding Board is a program which provides us with the opportunity to learn about topics that are current, interesting, and helpful. So I'm very excited to have Kim Kulp back to the program. When Kim was here last time, she talked about the hot topics in nutrition, which became a very popular program and received a lot of compliments. So welcome, Kim. Thank you for coming back.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. For the audience who do not know about you, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
I am a registered dietitian, which is now also known as a registered dietitian nutritionist. And that distinction was just newly made because there was such confusion about what a registered dietitian was. And it is actually the credential for a nutritionist. And in this state, it doesn't being a nutritionist doesn't require any schooling or professional training, which a registered dietitian does. So we're trying to make the distinction that we are the nutrition experts and let people maybe understand the connection a little bit more. So I'm a registered dietitian with a private practice here in Marin County, as well as a clinical dietitian at Santa Rosa Memorial Hospital.
Okay. And you have a lot of education, like college education and whatnot, that help.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes. I actually have 2 degrees myself, but to be a dietitian, you have to have at least a 4-year degree. Most dietitians have graduate work and have completed a year of supervised practice in a variety of areas in nutrition. Then you're allowed to take the national registration exam. And once you pass it, you can become registered, and then you need to maintain your credential by continuing education so that you stay up to date on research.
Okay, well, that's great. So you were talking about how you guys changed the name from RD, Registered Dietitian, to RDN, Registered Dietitian Nutritionist. Kind of interesting about the nutrition part that they added to it. And I also know that March, this month, is the National Nutrition Month. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And I know every year they have a thing for that month.
Yes, every March is the month of March is National Nutrition Month, and it's designed to bring attention to the public about the importance of nutrition. And it's a month dedicated to educating the public on nutrition and keeping them up to date on what some of the research really does tell us versus some of the myth that you often hear on the internet, in the media. And it can be very confusing to people. So we try to use this month as a kind of a time to bring focus more to nutrition. So I'm happy to be here in March. And this year the theme is Eat Right Your Way Every Day. And the Your Way is an emphasis on the fact that there is no one perfect diet for everybody. That depending on your culture, your medical needs, your age, there's different needs nutritionally. And registered dietitians are trained to be able to help people make that distinction and choose the right diet plan for them.
Okay, great. And actually, I thought that was a great lead into our subject today, because today we're going to talk about the common fad diets,
yes,
right?
Common fad diets.
Yeah. And so, well, I think that you and I talk a little bit about the different kind of diet we have, and you talk about everyday diet that's healthy, and that actually help people to be successful day in and day out and last throughout the rest of their lives. So the few common fad diets we're going to talk about, I think one we kind of touched upon last time when we talk about nutrition, the juice cleansers.
Juice
Is that how you say it?
Yes.
All right.
Juice cleanses have become very popular most recently, and there's actually a documentary that's become popular that follows an Australian man who supposedly follows nothing but a juice cleanse for 60 days and then drives around Australia with his juicer and then finds better health and comes to the United States and tries to sell that better health to people around here. And there's, as there often is with a lot of these diet plans, there's, we say, half-truths. So in this particular documentary, he's showing this incredible weight loss and therefore these great changes in his cholesterol levels and his blood pressure because of the juice. And the problem with these juice cleanses is they are not nutritionally complete. While fruits and vegetables are phenomenally nutritious, you can't survive just on one food group. And when people think that they can just drink juice, even if it's vegetable juice, because it's very common, as you probably know today, to make juices that are mixes of fruits and vegetables, using kale and spinach and carrots as well as adding in fruit. And while these can be very nutritious, in addition to your regular diet, you have to be really careful as to why you're choosing to do it. So if you're drinking just juice, then you're missing out on proteins and fats, because juice, even with vegetables, is primarily carbohydrates. So if you go a long period of time and you don't have any protein in your diet, your body has to find those proteins from somewhere, because protein is what we use to not only build muscle, but to create enzymes that are used for the chemical reactions in our body and our antibodies to fight infection. So protein is important on an ongoing basis. It's not something that we can just get from having, extra stored fat in our body. So if we don't eat protein, after a number of days, our body's going to find a way to survive. And the way it does that is it breaks down the protein that we have, which in our case is muscle. So while you think you're trying to lose weight, you're not just losing fat, you're losing muscle. So where juices alone aren't providing all the nutrients you need, you're actually doing yourself more damage, because when you break down the muscle, then it actually slows your metabolism. And so when people are doing this to lose weight, it can actually be working against them. So that's one part. Now, if you just use juices along with your diet, it can be a healthy addition if you're not eating fruits and vegetables and you need to add some of those very important micronutrients, which is the vitamins and minerals, and the phytochemicals. When we hear that term, it means the other, like antioxidants and other compounds that we find are only available in plants that are really beneficial to our health. So it's great to have those on board, and if that's the only way you can consume them, then maybe a little bit of juicing is okay. But when it comes to weight loss, which is what we're focusing on so much today, these fad diets, it can sometimes be an addition to what you're already eating. And in some of those juices are actually very high in calories if you're adding them to what you're already eating. And I challenge anyone to go to the grocery store and look at the food label on some of these pre-packaged juices, these green juices, because some of them are 200 calories in just a small 8-ounce container, and a lot of those containers are much more than 8 ounces. So you can be drinking a meal worth of juice in addition to your food and actually adding more calories than you were originally, and it won't be a way to lose weight. So it's a little complicated.
Okay, and actually I thought it kind of tastes good. And, okay, so so much for that. And I heard about this documentary, Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead.
Right, that's the juicing. Yes,
that's the juicing part. So it's kind of a little bit scary, I guess. And also, when I go to Costco, they sell this juicer, the machine. They're also part of it.
The Vitamix, yep, and they are flying off the shelves, and they're very expensive juicers. And again, if you're using it as an addition to your meals, as the vegetables that you may not be eating, then it could be okay for you if you're counting that as part of the daily calories that your body needs. But if you're looking at juicing as a way to lose weight, then you have to be really careful as to how much juice you're taking in and what else you're eating throughout the day. So simply just drinking juice, even if it has all these great vegetables in it, is not a complete diet, and you will be actually malnourished.
Okay. So talk to me about a little bit about this thing called Master Cleanser. I think that's what it's
the
called.
Master Cleanse.
Cleanse. And you know, I know there was one time when, you know, quite a few people in my office were doing that. You know, and I really don't know, you know, one of our co-worker was the first ones that's on that. And I think she was really into it, and young and healthy, not too long. I don't know, just she got sick. And actually passed away. I never really quite understand, you know, if that was related. Always wonder if it has something to do with that or not. So that's always something that's in my mind, Master Cleanser.
The Master Cleanse includes lemon juice, water, maple syrup, and a little cayenne pepper. And people who follow this drink this multiple times a day. So again, it's kind of like the juicing without any of the real nutrients that are in juice, that it is not nutritionally complete by any means. There's very little nutrition in there. It's just a little bit of calories from the maple syrup and the lemonade, if it's lemonade at all, or lemon juice. And it's just not enough to sustain yourself. Now, the problem with a lot of these diets also is people choose to go on them without any medical supervision. And if you have any medical problems at all, diabetes, heart disease, you can actually really be hurting yourself by going on such a restrictive diet and cutting back on some of the nutrients that your body needs.
Okay. So that's juicing. Okay. The next one I thought was quite interesting. The name itself is interesting. Wheat Belly Diet, talk about, yeah?
Wheat Belly is a book that has become very popular, and it's part of that whole movement right now that gluten is bad and grains are bad, and we shouldn't be eating any of this. And this book was actually written by a doctor, and a number of his claims are that wheat has changed a lot since we originally started cultivating it, and that because it's different, it's now making us sick. And that's where his theory starts in his book. And he makes a lot of connections between disease and wheat. However, the research doesn't support this. And first of all, the grains that we are cultivating now, the proteins in them haven't changed. But yes, just like any other fruits or vegetables, agriculture will breed for better taste, better shelf life, and all these things that we do by, you know, just the survival of the traits that we like in a particular plant. And that happens with all of our fruits and vegetables as well. It doesn't change the genes. However, so we haven't really had a big change in the wheat. A lot of times people will point to the fact that more and more people are having problems with gluten. Celiac disease, as we talked about when I was here last time, affects about 1% of the population. And that is an autoimmune disease where people cannot eat gluten. That gluten actually will damage the lining of the intestine and can lead to malnutrition. So for those people, it's very important that they avoid gluten, and avoiding gluten means you're avoiding wheat as well as some other grains. However, that's only 1% of the population. And then about 7% may have gluten intolerance, but it's very hard to really quantify that. It's an estimate because there is no test for gluten intolerance. It's a lot of times people's feeling of what happens when they eat something, and that can be confused with a lot of other components in their foods. However, with wheat, in the American culture, it's very much one of the main grains that we do consume, and yet the studies show that people who eat more grains have better health. We have less diabetes and less heart disease. So for this jump that wheat is responsible because we now have more of these diseases in our society is not supported by the science. And we over and over again, when we look at what's the best diet for health, the Mediterranean diet keeps rising to the surface. And the Mediterranean diet is fruits and vegetables, whole grains, a little bit of fish and some lean meat, and a little bit of yogurt, some cheeses, smaller amounts. So the majority of the diet is grains, fruits, vegetables, and a lot of the olive oil and the red wine that is part of the Mediterranean way of eating is also often included in that. And then to take it even further, there is a diet that we find is very helpful for people with high blood pressure, and it's called the DASH diet, and it stands for Dietary Approach to Stop Hypertension, and it really does work. Now, most of the time when people are told they have high blood pressure, they are told to watch their sodium intake, cut back on salt, cut back on processed foods that contain a lot of sodium, and that's helpful. But what we find with the DASH diet is somehow there's a combination of the variety of different minerals in that diet that we think maybe when they work together is what has such a benefit in lowering blood pressure. And that does include a variety of whole grains. So this wheat belly diet, which is anti-wheat, also kind of makes a turn in the book to be anti-grain as well. And suddenly what starts out as an anti-wheat book becomes essentially like a low-carb diet, because it's promoting the weight loss through cutting out wheat, but ultimately it's trying to get you to cut out all grains too. And when you cut out food groups, yes, you usually will lose weight because you're cutting out a portion of calories. So the wheat belly diet, again, is kind of jumped in there with this whole gluten-free thing that people are really jumping on the bandwagon for, but there really is not any research to support this being better for health or that there's any changes in the wheat that are making us sick.
Okay. All right. And the next one, love that name. Caveman diet.
The paleo diet. That's it. Eat like a caveman. Okay. And again, it's a similar kind of idea to this wheat belly diet. This is kind of the theme this year, is to cut back on grains again. And if you see this trend, it's very much similar to the Atkins diet with a little bit of a different disguise. The paleo diet, the theory is that we should be eating like the cavemen did, that our bodies were never meant to eat the cultivated foods that we have now. So the agricultural changes that came with growing grains and dairy and legumes are all relatively new from caveman days, and therefore we shouldn't be eating them. So this diet only allows meats, fruits, and vegetables. So that's cutting out not just these whole grains again, or any grains, but dairy, all dairy products, and legumes. And legumes also include peanut butter. So you're cutting out quite a bit of variety of food groups, and many very healthy food groups. And so when it comes to weight loss, yes, if you cut back that much, you're probably going to lose weight, particularly because you're now looking at pretty much a meat-heavy diet. So while many clients come to me and they say, well, I eat the paleo diet, I eat lots of fruits and vegetables. And once you go over their diet plan, you find that, yes, they eat fruits and vegetables, and that's great, but still meat has become a very big part of that diet. And yet we know that more meat consumption is not healthy. You need, if you choose to eat meat, you can eat some, but more is not better. And again, going to the Mediterranean diet and these DASH diet, meats are a very small part of these very healthy diets. So this is kind of flipping it upside down and now making meat the center of it. So, and also what you may miss here is the fiber that's involved with grains. Again, a lot of clients come to me and say, but I eat a lot of fiber, I eat lots of fruits and vegetables. And you can eat a good amount of fiber on a diet like this, but you really, really have to make a huge effort and to get enough carbohydrates to fuel your brain. And this is a part that many people don't understand. They think all carbohydrates are bad, but our brain runs on blood glucose, which is carbohydrate. And we need what would be the equivalent of maybe 9 apples if you were just eating fruit and you weren't eating from any other of the sources. You'd eat about 9 apples or 9 pieces of fruit just to hit the minimum that your brain needs to function well. So it's very rare when people come to me on the paleo diet that I find that they're actually eating enough for brain function, as much less if they're active. So what happens again is if you don't have enough of the right calories, and that includes carbohydrates, first your body uses what it stores, but we only store not even a day's worth in our liver. So after that, you've got to make sugar from something that isn't. And our body has a way of doing that to keep us from starving, but it breaks down our muscle. So once again, you have the option there that your body may be losing some of its muscle. So it's really important to balance that diet out. And cutting out that many food groups has not been shown to be beneficial. And there's a lot of vitamins and minerals that these people can be missing because they're cutting out such a large group of nutrients.
Yeah, I'm Chinese. I grew up. The way we eat our meat is really we chop it into little pieces and as part of the whole dish. So which you still have the taste, but I guess it's pretty good. Yeah.
And that is really the healthier way to approach meat. If you do eat meat, is to really say we use the meat as a condiment. Rather, in the American culture, we tend to use the meat as the main focus of a meal, and then we decorate the outside of the plate with the vegetables or the grains. Where really we should be making the vegetables and a little bit, the majority of it with part grains and then just a small amount of meat too. So balance is really important, and that's what is missing in a lot of these diet plans is you cannot sustain these kind of diets. Eventually you're going to go off of it because it's very hard to sustain something that limited, and that kind of limited amount of nutrients and something that's not sustainable is really the definition of a fad diet.
I know you have a favorite one, HCG. Can you go over there a little bit? Yeah.
This diet concerns me because it started to die off a little bit, and now it's just kind of had a resurgence here in Marin. And there's a place here in Marin that does a lot of cosmetic enhancements, and they're starting to offer the HCG diet. And I think that's something that people need to understand who's supplying
What
this.
is it though? What is it?
HCG stands for human chorionic gonadotropin, and that's actually a hormone that's produced by the placenta when women are pregnant. It does have a use in medicine. It has been approved to be used by doctors for treating women with infertility and very specific male hormonal issues, but never for weight loss. It is not FDA approved for weight loss. And yet there are a lot of doctors that are using this as a weight loss.
So how do they actually provide that?
Well, they have the ability to provide it if they have a license. Now, it's tricky. This started in about the 50s. A book came out. It was by a physician who had noticed when he was using the HCG for the approved reasons that some of the people were losing weight. So he kind of jumped to the fact that maybe this is a weight loss product, and he wrote a book about it. Now the research followed this, and they tried to repeat it, and this was never supported by research that HCG causes any weight loss. And then it kind of died off. Then come 2007, someone named Kevin Trudeau, and if people know his name, he's been in a lot of trouble with the FTC for some of his supplements that he's pushed with false claims. He wrote a book about the HCG, and he created a diet to go along with it. And this is where this came back. So this man who wrote the book also has no medical background and has been in a lot of trouble with the law, and yet this is where this diet started again. Everything old is new again. So this diet includes either taking homeopathic drops of HCG orally, or actually an injection of this hormone.
It's great that it's being administered at the laser center.
Yeah, there's a laser center here in Marin that provides it. And along with the HCG, you're put on a 500 calorie a day diet. Now, anyone that could actually sustain a 500 calorie diet is going to lose weight because it's practically starvation. But the idea that this HCG is doing something magic causes people to say, oh, I'm not hungry, I can do this. And I've had a lot of clients, they've lost weight on this because they've been on
They
a 500 calorie
but they just
diet,
can't sustain
but they
that.
can't sustain it. And what happens is, as I was explaining with the juice, when you go on that low a calorie diet, your body's got to find its nutrients from elsewhere. So it starts to break down your muscle.
Okay.
And when it breaks down the muscle, you lose your ability to have the higher metabolism. And therefore, people start to gain more weight. And so usually they gain back the weight and more.
Okay. Well, thank you. Unfortunately, we're kind of run out of time. I know we have quite a few other topics to talk about, but want to thank you, Kim, for coming over here and tell us about those common fad diets. So I guess, we're going to have some information about you to how to find you. I know you have a website, which is?
My company is called Health Tastes Great, so you can find me at www.healthtastesgreat.com. And I'd love to be able to work with you and help you, now that we are here celebrating National Nutrition Month, find the diet that's right for you.
Thanks. And thank you for tuning in. And I really want to thank again Rick Tucker and Leon Johnson of MPAT for helping us every week. Thanks.